You've been playing Battlefield 4 wrong all along, and here's why. There's actually an official strategy guide for Battlefield 4, and it supposedly teaches you the right way to play the game. Now, knowing that literally nobody watching this has read through this strategy guide, I thought I'd do you a solid and go through it myself. And since I was new to this whole official way of playing Battlefield, I decided to start with the Battlefield Bootcamp. Bootcamp covers things like getting started, multiplayer tactics, and, well, a bunch of other things that I didn't give enough of a shit to read through. And if you thought the guide would first teach us useful things like how to aim, shoot, or sprint, you'd be wrong. I also couldn't pay the $10 to unlock the whole guide, not because I couldn't afford it, but because you literally can't buy it anymore. Like, what? So, back to Bootcamp it was, and after reading that there was nothing to fear and that there was a role for me regardless of my experience or skill level, I knew I'd finally make Mom proud. First, we had the interface section, where I learned great things like there is a reticle in the center of the HUD, and if your health reaches 0%, you die. Oh, and there was also something on field upgrade meter, but after playing a few games, I started to think it just wasn't working. But then I went back to the guide and remembered that my squad couldn't be eliminated or else we'd lose progress. And knowing that the chances of having a squad that survives for more than 30 seconds was worse than a snowball's chance in hell, I moved on to the deploy screen section. I learned that I could tweak my loadout as needed by swapping out weapons or gadgets, which unfortunately, because I couldn't purchase the guide, I didn't know which weapons or gadgets to use, so I decided it'd just be better to stick the defaults and change the skins to make me look more badass. The most important thing I learned from this section though was that you could spawn on or close to your squad to provide support, so that's exactly what I did. Wait, where is he? Oh, there he is. And another one. Hey man, you need a back rub? You want some Kool-Aid? What are you looking at? Holy nuts! How do you run? Okay, all right, wow, you look great back there. You're so calm under pressure. I want to be more like that. Oh God, no! Advancing through the guide, I mastered the whole movement section by learning how to sprint, crouch, and prone. I will say though that this section was rather conflicting as it taught me how to do everything, but then at the end it said, don't give in to the temptation to sprint. You're better off moving at a slower speed with your weapon raised and ready to fire. Well, because I'm a good boy DICE official rules follower, there was no way you'd catch me sprinting out of there on that battlefield.
Nice.
Oh, and I also learned how to swim, and there was the first tip of the guide that told me if I was swimming, there was a chance that enemy watercraft would actually attempt to run me down, and that diving underwater was my best chance at not being ran over. Because that terrified the shit out of me and is one of my greatest fears, I decided I'd just avoid the water from there on out. Okay, now hold on just a second. I can use parachutes whenever I jump off a surface or aircraft? There's also a tip to conduct airborne assaults on distant control points by using a jet or a helicopter. It says it's the quickest way to stage breakout attacks during sieges. Now, I don't yet know what a siege is because I've only seen the word conquest so far in the guide, but I decided to test out to see how fast this airborne assault really was. I went up really high in a jet and aimed for my target. After ejecting and pulling my chute, I timed how long it took me to conduct my airborne assault. Wait, hold on, that took almost 80 seconds. Can't believe this is the official guide. Next up was the combat fundamentals, and this section turned me from an ugly caterpillar into a beautiful butterfly. I learned that spotting was good and that it'd make everyone look like little Doritos and give me points. But then I learned from the big red caution warning that spotting wasn't good in close quarter combat and that it'd be better to take cover and try to stay alive, so once again I was conflicted. I then learned about melee combat, which made me feel better in the case that I was caught close quarters trying to spot someone, because then I could just cut their throat and take their dog tags as a trophy. Wait, holy shit, there's counter knifing? Oh, I just hadn't gotten to that section yet. Okay, and finally we start talking about firearms. I mean, we're already this far into the guide and now I learn how to shoot my gun. I mean, it's about time. Basically, there are a lot of different guns, but the common thing across any gun was simple. I just had to place the reticle directly over the target and then squeeze the trigger. So I thought, okay, no problem, I can do that. I decided to practice a bit more. Oh, and something about bipods? And then this section about aiming down sights, with literally nothing explaining how to do it except this picture. I mean, look, we go from recoil compensation, pass by this picture of aiming down sights, and then directly into reloading. I mean, what the fuck? The reloading section was very helpful. I learned that sniper rifles had less bullets per magazine than LMGs, and then it's actually better to switch to your sidearm mid-firefight instead of reloading your primary gun. There was also another cautionary box telling me to think twice before reloading in hardcore mode because I'd lose all my bullets in the magazine. I didn't really have to worry about this though because I could never get into a hardcore server since they were either full or empty. And let me tell you what, once I got to the attachment section, I was just brain blast of endorphins. I could now swap out optics, accessories, barrels, and underbarrels, but it was only specific to whatever gun it was because this yellow note in the guide said it was true. And it turned out it was. The next 3 sections were titled grenades, grenade launchers, and anti-vehicle weapons. I decided to blast through these as fast as I could and amass an explosion of knowledge by reading them all at once with my left eye, right eye, and my brown eye. There were so many different types of grenades and they all had to be thrown. Even the hand flare grenade. And the grenade launchers were like the same thing, but they came out of a tube. And those anti-vehicle weapons, oh, let me tell you what, that's where the good was. There were anti-tank rockets and anti-air missiles, landmines, and C4, and the whole point of these things was to just destroy other people's fun, knowing full well that even when carrying these power weapons, I'd still be outgunned by the vehicles, and it was just such an exhilarating experience. I mean, come on! So after learning all about how to destroy vehicles, it was then my turn to drive and pilot them. With the help of the guide, I switched over to an engineer once again and got to business. The vehicle section talked about how important it was to be an engineer and to repair tanks and helicopters, so I made sure to do this anytime I was near a tank or a helicopter. It also talked about how the maps in Battlefield 4 are massive and that it was vital to use vehicles for transportation on larger maps. And the specific wording was, whenever possible, make an effort to pick up teammates along the way, so I did just that. And not everyone wanted to get in, and it was really frustrating playing with players like this that clearly hadn't read the official guide in the section about the importance of transportation. And while I was driving around looking for more teammates to transport, I learned that vehicles could take critical hits if they were hit from above or behind. This was really concerning to me as I was driving to learn this, especially when I saw that critical hits could result in a vehicle becoming immobilized. I was in a vehicle! But then I saw that an experienced crew can stay with the vehicle and fight their way out of trouble until the vehicle becomes responsive. And those words brought me comfort as I felt a sense of family with my crew. And speaking of family, I then read about teamwork and I started to feel that all my training from this official guide was starting to come full circle. Everything started with the squad and how you should be supportive of your squad mates in green and teammates in blue, and now it was ending with it. I had learned how to be supportive, that sprinting wasn't a good idea. Parachutes were great for fast airborne assaults. Shooting was as simple as holding down the trigger. Hand flares were grenades, and that vehicles may be important, but transportation is critical. And in the wise words of the official Battlefield 4 guide, by simply communicating and working together, you can gain a huge advantage over your opponents. And with that, I felt my training was complete. If you enjoyed this journey as much as I did, be sure to hit that like button, and who knows, maybe if we hit something like, I don't know, 1,000 likes, we'll make another one of these guides for another game. Let me know down in the comments what you'd like to see next, subscribe if you want more stuff like this, and I hope to see you again in the next one.